What's up, everybody? It is your boy Baddog back with another Los Angeles Lakers video this time. And in this video, I want to talk about a couple of guys that the Los Angeles Lakers may be able to add to their roster that would certainly give them a leg up in repeating as NBA champions. First of all, if you guys are just watching for the first time, thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter. Links are below in the description, so please follow me on those two formats. I will follow you back. Now, I did a video earlier a couple weeks ago talking about guys that the Los Angeles Lakers could go out and trade for. Robin Lopez was one of them. Hassan Whiteside was also one of them. There's no doubt that the Los Angeles Lakers need a big man to either back up or start alongside of Marc Gasol. There's no doubt about it. Gasol, certainly not what he once was. A pretty decent defender, but certainly not a guy that's going to intimidate you when you drive the paint, and not a guy that's going to provide a lot of offense at this time in his career. It's just not something that he does. All season long, we've seen the Los Angeles Lakers give up tons of points in the paint. They've gotten killed on the offensive glass in a number of games. And when teams are able to penetrate without any fear, the defense will collapse a lot of times, which allows the penetrator to kick out to the wings, and they got wide open threes. We've seen a lot of games where teams just shoot the lights out against the Lakers from downtown, and that's a big reason why. Adding a guy in the middle that is a solid rebounder or a shot blocker or a guy that instills a little bit of fear, a little bit of an intimidator going into the paint would certainly help the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, Lopez and Hassan Whiteside are certainly not big names. That's not going to jump off the page at anybody as far as Lakers fans go. But there are two names that perhaps are players you wouldn't think the Los Angeles Lakers could get, but there is definitely a possibility that it could happen. The first one is Blake Griffin. Now, Blake Griffin, when he came into the league out of Oklahoma to the Clippers, was an unbelievable talent. This guy was one of the most exciting, electrifying players in the NBA in his prime. Injuries have certainly caught up to him. He's dealt with a lot of injuries in his career, and at 31 years old, he's certainly not the player that he once was. There's no doubt about that. However, he's had a bad year with the Pistons, and the Pistons are going nowhere. The Pistons are a terrible team, and they are in the middle of a rebuild. They're going nowhere. They're going nowhere fast. It's not a contender. Certainly, the Pistons are a team that could buy out Blake Griffin and allow him to choose wherever he wants to go. Los Angeles could certainly be that team. Now, there's no doubt the Clippers did Blake Griffin wrong, and if the Lakers ever met up with the Clippers in a postseason matchup, you know that Blake Griffin will give 150% in every one of those games just to get back at them. But also, Blake Griffin is a guy that perhaps could find some of that old magic if he was paired up with a guy like LeBron James. LeBron, one of the best things, one of the best assets about LeBron James is that he makes everybody around him better. That is the mark of a champion. That is what LeBron James does. LeBron James all by himself can make players a lot better. Dwight Howard's career was kind of resurrected last year as well, and he was able to get a contract elsewhere. I mean, that certainly helped out Dwight Howard. This was not a guy that was doing anything, and he went to Los Angeles. He was a big producer off the bench for them. He had a big integral part in them winning a championship, and now he's somewhere else. Same thing with JaVale McGee. These guys were able to move on in their career when it looked like it kind of might have been done, So Blake Griffin would have added motivation. When you go to it from a team that is losing, and then all of a sudden you get a new lease on life, and you go to a team that is a perennial championship contender, naturally you're going to be more positive. Your attitude's going to be a lot better. It's easier to play when you know you have a really good chance to win as opposed to a really bad chance to win. So Blake Griffin could certainly benefit by coming to the Los Angeles Lakers. There's no doubt about that. I think that he would be a pretty good part, and this is definitely a guy, if he's not traded, and he probably won't be because I think his salary is like $36 million, and nobody's going to trade for Blake Griffin. So there's definitely a good possibility that Detroit buys him out, and he'll have the opportunity to go to Los Angeles if that's what he chooses. The other one's Andre Drummond. Now, Andre Drummond I thought was going to get traded, and I didn't think there was any way feasible that he was going to become a Los Angeles Laker. Again, he's getting $28.8 million a year. The Lakers would have to give up huge assets and draft picks in order to get Andre Drummond. And Andre Drummond has cost a fortune. So the Lakers have a hard time even affording him without getting rid of guys like, they probably have to get rid of Kuzma, KCP, THT, and some draft picks. They'd have to give up the farm to get Andre Drummond, and it wouldn't be smart to do that. However, Andre Drummond is another guy People are not knocking down the Cleveland Cavaliers' door to trade for him. It's another guy that could be bought out. Now, this would be the best case scenario for Los Angeles. This is a guy that's averaging over 13 rebounds a game. He can also score. He's an intimidator in the paint. He's led the league in rebounds 4 times. There is no doubt Andre Drummond would slide right into the starting position. And maybe you could even play AD at the 5 and play Drummond at the 4. But it would also allow Marc Gasol to come off the bench. I think he would be much more effective playing against a team's number 2 center instead of playing against their starting center. Andre Drummond would be every Laker fan's dream to come here and help the Lakers win a second championship in a row. The thing is, the Brooklyn Nets could certainly offer him more money, and I know there's a lot of talk about the Nets ever since they got James Harden. Everybody comes into my Lakers streams talking about how about the Nets, how about the Nets? Well, the Nets gave up a lot to get Harden. They gave up all their draft picks. They emptied all their bench. They gave up Jared Allen. They don't have any defense whatsoever. But Andre Drummond would certainly change that for Brooklyn. And again, this should allow Drummond to choose where he wanted to go. Drummond could decide, hey, do I want to take a little bit less money? It's just for the rest of the year. He'd be a free agent at the end of the year. So does Drummond say, hey, I have a better chance to win in Los Angeles. I'll take a little bit of a pay cut to go play there as opposed to playing in Brooklyn. I'll get my ring, and then I'll sign somewhere else next year, which is probably what's going to happen. Even if he went to Brooklyn, the same thing's going to happen. I don't think he'd re-sign with Brooklyn, but I don't know. He would not be able to sign with the Los Angeles Lakers. They're just not going to be able to afford him. So that's really on Andre Drummond. He could decide to go to Los Angeles, figuring he's going to have a better chance to win a title there than in Brooklyn. But we would see, again, Brooklyn would have the opportunity to offer him more money. So those are 2 much bigger names that the Los Angeles Lakers would have a shot at if both of these guys get bought out. I definitely think that Blake Griffin's going to get bought out. Nobody's trading for Blake Griffin, so I definitely think Blake Griffin's going to be available. I'm not so sure about Andre Drummond. I do think Blake Griffin would go to Los Angeles. I really do think he would pick to go to the Lakers. I'm not sure what Drummond would do. But those are 2 guys that the Los Angeles Lakers could definitely make a run at if they are bought out, and we'll see what happens. I know that's not too far away from the buyout options for these teams. That's all I got in this video, guys. I always appreciate you watching. I'll be live for the Lakers and Nets tomorrow night, 9:45. You're not going to want to miss that. That should be a great game. Wish AD was playing, but it is what it is. We'll see what they do tomorrow against the Nets. Should be a great matchup. Hope to see you there. Until then, enjoy the rest of your day. It's the Bad Diggity Dizzle, and I'm out. Peace!